I'm seeing two caves or grottos. That is one of the
Oh, that
most
as well.
rushable squares. Row one, column four here, by the way. This one right here for all
True.
the viewers. That square has been very, very contested and rushed very early on by all the teams. You just go straight into Soldier of Godrick, right into the Bofa cave, the Beastman for Missoula. And that like gets completed within the first 5 minutes of a match. So I would be
Yeah.
expecting that to be taken very, very quickly. If not, also the catacombs. There is a little bit of a time, or a bit of a stat sync here, which is the 30 arcane. So I'm very curious about how people are approaching it this time around. We talked about how early on it was like, oh, it's just go to Halleck Tree and spend the money, like it's easy peasy. But then realizing more and more that it's such a shot in your own foot of doing the 30
Sure.
arcane that like people have been delaying that more and more. So I'm really wondering if this is going to be considered like rushed or not for these two teams.
Yeah, the more I look at this board, the more early game stake this really is. I think everything I just said with the setup phase can be completely thrown out of the window for this board in particular. We have grafted Scion on the board as well, which is obviously something you can technically do right off the bat. Like, if you wanted to go full early game, one person could go for those caves, the other one could go for grafted Scion and more early game rushes,
Yeah.
and maybe get a super early win here on the board. That being said, one thing that I just saw that can be kind of nice here is the Sacred Blade pickup, because we have both Deathbirds and Tibia Marinas in the same column, which is definitely that sort of boss that's relatively weak to that damage. I don't think that anyone is actually going to make it to Capital here on this board, unless they absolutely have to towards the end with the Moke Shackle. But yeah, so many rushable squares, NPC Invaders, Omen Kill Boss, Catacombs, Caves, Crafted Scion. I think this is going to be super explosive right at the start.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And I really, really think that the Shabriri grapes is going to be a big deal here at this point around. Like, not like yesterday where it was intentionally delayed for the better half of the match because no one was really contesting it. But now I think this is actually going to be something that is going to be pushed really, really intensely from both teams because it is center square.
Exactly. One small synergy, I mean, it's maybe something to briefly mention, is we do have the Crucible Knight Misbegotten Square and the three Crucible Knights. That's something you can kind of combine, and it's also, once again, in the same column. But I'm really not expecting anyone to go for many synergies here, but just to get as many of those early game squares as possible. We have three people at least. No, actually, I think literally everyone starting with the same class. You have the Curved Club. Is it even the Curved Club? Or is it
No, it's
the
a
other
graft.
Noric one?
It's the Grave Tender's Scythe, I believe. Oh, that
But
is
they
the
also have
the
like the
curved
club,
club
right?
and the scythe. Yeah. No, you're
Right,
right.
right,
You're right.
right.
Yeah.
They got that. They got Scholar's Armament online, which is also a sorcery that they can kind of like already use towards the top right square. Let's see if anyone is going for Grafted Scion here. It looks like Kata might be doing it, but no one else seems to be interested in it.
Yep. And it's a little bit of a gamble as well, but let me go ahead and bring Cat up here real quick as he is currently going to try and fight this. I do wonder, like, for some people that haven't, I guess, practiced Grafted Scion, they're just like, oh, this is just a huge time sink anyways, and you're going to be delayed when it comes to, like, getting to Torrent or whatever, so maybe it's not even worth it. But from what we've seen in, like, the Positive Vibes versus Bruno Machino match yesterday, that time, honestly, if it's efficiently, is not even that bad.
Yeah, for sure. You also get that weapon check at the end if you are successful. And it looks like Cattery is going for exactly that super rush strategy I talked about. Kata going for Grafted Scion, and Pup is currently in the first cave, racing NPT to that square. It's going to be an interesting one. Normally, I think people usually go for the Beastman of Missoula right after this at the second cave. So if Pup is able to get that square, that will obviously be massive, getting them an immediate double square. Kata is able to get that boss kill on Grafted Scion. Very nicely done. Meanwhile, Zoodle is probably on his way to Torrent
Yeah. No, I
to work on
definitely
some other stuff.
would agree with that. I do wonder when it comes down to, like, two people rushing this from the very beginning. This is just pure routing. There really isn't
Yeah.
much RNG involved for the boss fights or anything else. This is just pure efficiency and routing. It looks like that Tom is currently like 2 to 3 seconds ahead here. So he might have a little bit of an edge when it comes to getting the square. Gets the stagger right away. The question is a stagger worth it or is it not for the time's sake? And it looks like
Yeah,
that pup
it
does
seems
get
like
the
it's
kill right away.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like she made up a little bit of time there with the double charge attack instead. I think Tom was taking some slightly cleaner lines towards that cave. Maybe the speedrun, the any percent speedrunner knowledge, if you don't know, NPT has had like very good, if not even world record times and glitches any percent, where stuff like that actually matters. Like you want to run the most ideal line in every single case. So it's definitely going to be tough to win that race versus him. But I do think Pup actually made up some time with her way of actually killing the boss. That being said, we still have to kill Bofa on both of their ends. Meanwhile, Zoodle has made some progress towards Torrent. If NPT wins this cave square and ties up the board, I think Zoodle is going to be in the best position to build the lead up as he's already approaching Torrent here.
Yeah. Now, I really wonder with this board, by the way, there really aren't that many like big bosses compared to, let's say, with the CBD match yesterday, not the CBD match, but the Monkey Ballers match yesterday versus oh my god, Cattery, where CBD went for Millennia with the level 60. Yeah. See, I think that's kind of interesting because like on this board you don't have that. You don't have any like really big bosses. You don't really have Millennia, Fire Giant, Moog. None of that's really on this board. So where are you gonna get that money? Is it from Grail? Is it from the Erdtree Avatar and Dragon Barrow? Is it from BBK maybe? It all depends.
Yeah, I think that immediately makes the square so much less attractive. You don't really want that rune level 60 because you're going to be busy collecting items like staves and sacred flask and sorceries instead, which is also going to be some sort of money sink. So I highly doubt that actually anyone wants to go for this. It would obviously be really fun to see the board somehow be tied up until that point, and then people have to figure out how on earth are we now getting rune level 60. They're probably all going to be sitting on like level 17. The only like somewhat late game boss that's technically on the board is like Draconic Tree Sentinel because he's guarding Capital. But other than that, yeah, like you said, it's just Godrick. So Pup is heading into the Beastman fight here. NPT's already on it though, getting some hits in. There might still be a world where Pup gets much better RNG and can somehow clutch this out. NPT there with a really good lead already towards that square.
Yeah, already on his second stagger here. This looks like it's already in for NPT this square. Sorry, my brain is completely fried. Yeah, there you go. That was a very clean fight here from NPT. Nice staggers back to back, gets the two caves or grottos. So Pup will see that on the board here now. But I don't think there's anything else to really keep Bofa alive. There is no physic explosive tier on the board. Actually, no, there is. So for row 2, column 3, there's a finish a boss with explosive physic. She already killed Soldier of Godrick and Bofa, so that kind of makes it a little bit more difficult for her to complete that square, as those are kind of like the two that you lean into because they're just the easiest to explode with because they don't really run away from you. But they could easily use that on maybe a different tree. They could use that on a Crucible Knife if they really wanted to. Just a bit riskier, timing-wise.
Yeah, Kata grabbing this Grace here. I believe there's technically a path you can take from this Grace over to that Erdtree because he obviously still has the availability there. He could still go for the Beastman of Aramazor to actually get that kill. He's on his way to Omen Killer right now. So not on the same square that Zoodle is working on. Zoodle just finished his first Catacomb dungeon. Is going to try to get that on the board. And let's see what NPT and Pub will do after this initial cave race.
It looks like
Omen Killer, we've seen lots of incidents, so let's see how that goes.
Yeah, and I do wonder. Okay, so he's going for the Scholar's Armament buff here, potentially. And standing in a very interesting spot. I believe this is just to not aggro any of the dogs, and then bring him back to the hillside. As we mentioned yesterday, this is like the only safe spot to really fight Omen Killer by himself. Should be able to get a backstab here, potentially. There it is. However, no buffing. Just going straight for the raw curved club here on the Omen Killer.
Yeah, I don't necessarily exactly know if there's any flat damage in Scholar's Armament on top of probably some scaling damage, but yesterday we've seen a race between Gino and Chris where the buffing actually ended up losing Chris the square to an extent. There was also some RNG that played into it. But it does obviously take quite a bit to actually apply that buff in the first place. And I think Kata is basically just going to go for backstabs and raw charged R2s here to get that riposte damage in. Meanwhile, NPT is probably working towards Godrick's Great Rune as he's heading towards Margit. And it looks like Pup is going to try to do the same thing. So they're still toe-to-toe on this exact same race, which is going to be unfortunate if NPT is able to get that lead. That's got to feel pretty bad. If you're basically just trailing behind someone, we've seen that many times, and then having your squares being taken away from you. Is there anything else you can really do in Stormvale Castle here? There's the Godrick's Great Rune Restoration and Remembrance Dupe, which could be an interesting gamble again, if they even go for that boss fight. Yesterday, we've seen two different paths. One person was going for the faster remembrance dupe, and the other person called out that bluff and essentially went for the Great Rune Restoration instead.
There's actually quite a few things to do here in Stormvale, so I think going for Market is just a good move regardless for both teams. There is Omen Killer now on the board, by the way, for Catalyst, now blocking rid of that column 4 for them, that Caves and Grottos completion from Team Zoom. So they're already currently ahead by 1 square. Do wonder what Cat is going to do next right after that. And it looks like that Zoodle is going to be focusing on the Catacombs, which I think is a really solid idea here.
Oh, and I didn't even realize the synergy yet, but this is going to be his first Watchdog as well. There's the 3 Watchdog square on the board. He didn't choose the other Catacomb to go full greed mode. That's obviously not something that can work out, like choosing your both of your Catacombs to be the Watchdog ones.
Yep.
But he will have an advantage here now on Watchdog, so he can eventually finish off this square while also finishing up the 2 Catacomb dungeons.
Yep. So 2 Catacombs already completed here from Zoodle, claiming that square now. And I'm assuming at some point going to be going for Crystal Darts here. This is where the center square becomes really, really important now, because he already activated that row 3. Have Tom go to Stormvale Castle, kill Godrick, get the Shabriri Grapes going, while Zoodle goes and gets the Watchdogs and maybe, Tibia Mariners or something.
I'm not sure if that was on screen right now, but like Margit essentially completely sinking the entire time from the stag animation, at least on my view here, was pretty fun to see. NPT is keeping his lead, but Pup doing very well, trailing just behind here, playing Margit just as well, I would say. The only difference here is that NPT entered the fight a little bit earlier, so Pup definitely is still in this Godrick race, depending on how well Stormvale Castle goes. We know the Ballistas can definitely be quite scary. It looks like Kata is working towards that Somberstone Bellbearing square. I called it out before, and I'm calling it out again, something that he personally likes to do. You get Smithing Stones, you get Somber Stones, you get many options to become stronger, while also working towards a square. And actually the strike weapon will be pretty good here for both Falling Star Beast and eventually the Crystallian Duo.
Yeah, it looks like that Zoodle is doing a bunch of weapon checks, by the way. He checked round table here for him and his teammate, and then also checked the Gatefront Greatsword chest. Looks like he got the Flamberge from the Gatefront chest. So that will definitely be a weapon I think both players will go for, as it is a Greatsword and is also a bleed weapon. So it's got a nice little 2-for-1 deal.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see if the other team will eventually find that weapon too. I do think they may have actually already had it earlier on or something, because I do recall at least seeing that being said in some of the chats. I'm not sure if there was something that was picked up or from the actual Greatsword chest. Either way, Zoodle has that weapon available to him right now. Another thing that's worth calling out is that they all started with a staff and sorcery, so that double collection square. They have some inherent I mean, I guess there's no advantage because they all started with it at the same time, but they can kind of consider that in their routing.
It's a bit of a time save, yeah. I believe that's, I guess, after the match yesterday where Tom pretty much was ahead for the whole incantations only square and also the seals because he started with that class. I think everyone's kind of like taking a page out of that book, realizing, you know what, that is actually not a bad idea at all, just having that as backup.
Sure. Yeah, I want to call out this play by Pup real quick. I think this could either work out really well or be a little bit of a time sink as well. So she prepared the Grace on the way to the Great Rune Restoration here, where she can technically warp back to. If NPT decides to go for that square instead of the faster Great Rune Restoration, it would be hilarious to see him actually win the race against Godrick, but Pup able to get that restoration first by having some walking time saved with a more efficient walk back. I would expect NPT to probably go for the faster remembrance dupe. He was able to mark that cave square first, so he might just think, okay, I'm just going for the fastest option, but we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, let me go ahead and actually move into the all 4 player screen real quick so we can get a look at this Godrick fight as well. And he's using the Scythe here, which definitely already bleed procced on Godrick. Very, very nice damage. It looks like that, honestly, I don't know if that Grace really helped out Pup in this case here, as he's already going into phase 2, and she is just entering the fight. She's not even going to be using the grafted Scythe, I believe, compared to Tom, so she's not going to be getting those bleed procs like he did. This, I think, might be a bit of a misplay, I guess, not swapping to that Scythe that she also started with.
Yeah, we will see how that plays out, because obviously if NPT decides to go for the Great Rune Restoration, he's going to have to run back through the Ballistas again and a little bit of extra Stormwell running. It's going to depend on how fast Pup can actually kill Godrick here. That being said, I think NPT will probably go for the Remembrance dupe either way. Kata is also on the way, very nice.
He gets
getting
grabbed
grabbed actually.
Does he die, though? Oh, he is so
Oh,
low
so
on health, but
close.
does not die. This is really close.
I know that you can technically mash out of grabs. I don't know if it does anything for this grab in particular. Maybe the speedrunner mashing there coming in clutch to save NPT's life.
Yeah, I
Either way, though,
believe
very close not to killing.
you can do that with pretty much every grab attack. You can mash out of it, and it deals like half the damage. Same with like Virgin Abductors, for example. And there it is. There's the death on Team Zoom's side here for Godrick. Has to wait out the dialogue real quick, and then it's going to go straight probably for the... I don't know. Does he go for the duping? Does he go for the restoration? I'm not too sure. I kind of feel like after yesterday, seeing that your restoration could be taken as a bluff, I think he might go for it. I think he might go for the... No, he's going for the dupe.
No,
he's going for the dupe.
And I was just going to say, I think the one additional factor that comes in is that he doesn't necessarily know if Pup is maybe already on it, right? Because he doesn't know that she was working on caves.
Yeah.
He got that cave square, but maybe in his mind, Pup is already about to restore the Great Runes, so he's just going to try to get that square because that hasn't been marked yet. Pick the fastest option here. So interesting dynamic coming into the play here. Now, I actually haven't seen if Kata picked up the crystal darts this time. I called him out last match, and Watchdogs is on the board again. It looks like Zoodle is in Leonia right now. I haven't seen if he's already picked them up. He's kind of heading into that direction. There's that crystal dart, halberd check. Well, actually, he's going towards the merchant here first. But he might actually be working on staffs because I know this guy sells a staff, and Thops can also you can also drop a staff from Thops. So that's probably what he's currently concerned with. Is going to be buying that staff, so that's what he's working on.
And we see Tom here cleaning off the turtle's legs, being just a nice civilian. You know, the turtle has been struggling with all this skulls around its legs. And you find out for some reason that, you know, if you have a sword, for example, that you can't wield, you dink off of it immediately trying to clean off the legs. But your hand completely made out of steel, just rub it against stone. It's completely fine.
Pup also getting grabbed towards the end there of Godrick, also managing to survive. Very nice. She does have that grace pre-set up, so even if she somehow tries to go for the duplication here before NPT is able to do so, she will have a faster backup to return to that restoration once that square gets marked. She's already locked in for that restoration though, teleporting back to that big bridge, and is probably going to be getting the square basically no matter what. It looks like Kata will also be getting this double bell bearing square, so we're actually going to be pretty tied up here.
Yep. Which is very interesting that both of them are on the same row here. Yeah, so there is the dupe here from Tom now coming out, but then there's going to be the block for Pup now. So that row one is going to be dead here in just a moment for Team Zoom, which is going to be really interesting, I guess. Yeah, how do you play around that? I think if anything, the only way you can play around that is if your whole team commits to it. So both
Dragon Halberd alert. Zoodle.
Oh, on Zoodle. Oh, for the
Leonia halberd check.
Oh, very nice.
So I was literally just going to say, if that's the case and you miss out on that row one, what Zoodle is doing with the staffs is going to feel kind of bad. Because yeah, you get the square, but it's one of those squares that doesn't get you much else. But that's actually not true in this case. Because not only did he get that crystal dart to be able to finish off his Watchdog square, but also one of the strongest weapons available in this format that he's going to be able to level up if he wants to for later game squares. So definitely paying off for him either way.
Yeah, there is the staves.
Also, wait, did Kata die to Crystallians because he's entering again? I
guess he did, yeah. So it looks like staves are collected here from Team Zoom. I think sorceries wouldn't be bad, though, because then at the very least they can activate that diagonal. But this would be something where you have to focus on grapes now. And with Pup now sinking a bunch of time into the restoration for Godrick, and Tom not even going for it, this is going to be a square for them, sure, but as you can see, it does take a lot of time, as she's already been on the square for about a minute and a half, maybe. She's going to be on this elevator for another, like, 20 seconds. So, yeah, it's a guaranteed square, but also, is it worth the time, as Tom is possibly going for grapes here?
Right.
Not too sure.
That being said, Godrick's Great Rune in general, having the ability to activate it using a rune arc is definitely one, if not the best Great Rune to have, and can sometimes help you out either with like reaching a certain requirement or just having more endurance and vigor. So at least there's some sort of like consolation prize for that longer square. I guess that's something to keep in mind. NPT working on sorceries now, it seems, potentially, because Zoodle has already been at Thops. It doesn't really make sense for him to also go for the staff square, unless they decided for him to work on the collection squares now because Zoodle has that Dragon Halberd and is looking to upgrade it soon here by visiting the Hailing Tree.
Yeah, I think this is a really good play here from Team Zoom for sure. Is Doodle getting some early squares and being like, okay, I'm gonna go for upgrades now. You got Godrick. I found a really good weapon. Let me go get that online. Like, let me go get that online right now. And I think that's a really good play from Team Zoom for sure. Getting that Dragon Halberd to +9 would be huge for Zoodle. And would make all these other fights on this board way easier. And like I said, there's nothing really super crazy either on this board, so he should be able to bulldoze through all of these fights. There is no Millennia, there is no Borealis or Vike.
Exactly.
Or Fire Giant. So these are, Limgrave, Liurnia, if not Altus fights.
Wait a second.
So it should be all good.
Look at Kata right now. We have a pretty good weapon on each side. Now, I don't know where he picked up that Bloodhound's Fang, but that's definitely a super solid weapon to be picking up. So we're going to see Dragon Halberd versus Bloodhound's Fang race here. Both of them currently setting up their weapon. Small advantage for Cutter, though. He got that somber bell-bearing square. So he doesn't actually have to travel to EG. If he wants to, he can just go to the round table hold, give the bell bearings, and then buy those quickly to immediately get that weapon online and work on other squares.
Yeah, it looks like he's also leaning into that Somber 10 pickup, by the way. Which I don't believe Zoodle went for, but I'm not too sure. I did miss him.
No, I don't think so.
For like half his Halleck tree route there.
True, maybe it did.
But yeah, Zoodle ready at the EG teleporter. Oh, and Kata getting one shot by the tree. Okay, that's going to cost him a little bit of time here at the very least.
It's actually not the worst place to die on because that's where you drop down after the elevator anyway. Because he did have 18,000 runes and he probably wants to get those back. He needs those to buy the Somber Stones, get the weapon and levels to be able to wield it. Zoodle is now making his way to EG. I haven't really seen him in the Lake of Rod, but there's so much happening at the same time here that it can be relatively easy to miss. NPT now working on that grape center square, something we've talked about that can be quite important here, basically leading to so many different bingo threats.
Yep. I mean, if anything, it blocks the double diagonal here because Team Cattery already has the Omen Killer on one diagonal and the Somberstone Bell Bearings on the second diagonal here. So going for Shabriri Grapes with a double block into also promoting your own row 3 is a really, really good square.
Absolutely. It looks like Zoodle is a little bit unsure about his next move, kind of hovering around the map, not knowing what to commit to. We got Tibia Marinas on the board. He probably wants to be killing stuff now that he actually has his weapon online. Maybe looking at Crucible Knight, Misbegotten Crucible synergy. He has that one Watchdog on the board. He could potentially look at something like Gorang or Tibia Marinas. And now Kata is being sniped again by the tree, and this has to hurt. Absolutely horrendous attack patterns there coming out from the tree, and we are in the Hailing Tree, so every single shot here hurts a lot.
Yeah, that Golden Land really sniped him all the way from above, while Puppery here is actually going for the Lightning Ram Ash of War, by the way. So this is really going to be a block in the works for row 3.
Yeah, makes sense getting that out of the way, even though Tom is still working on this center square. That being said, I think that's the only threat remaining of that center square. Column is blocked. The diagonals are already blocked on both ways by Cattery.
This doesn't seem to be a +9.
Might be a little bit of a time waste.
This is definitely not a +9 Dragon Halberd, though, right? On
oh, no. I think he only +4'd it. I don't think he's been in Lake of Rod yet.
Okay, I was about to say, like, and that Octopus is not having any of it. A little bit of a duo fight here now on Zoodle's screen, as it is not just Deathbird, but Deathbird Octopus.
Yeah, looking like a Crucible Zoo duo fight. Not sure if that's something we'll be seeing in the future. It doesn't look very fun. I'd say Deathbirds can be pretty horrendous to fight depending on what weapon you're using. Strike and holy damage being quite good. Everything else feeling really underwhelming. I thought these guys have like a highly upgraded weapon before. And Zoodle just quits out here. Probably the better choice because that was looking pretty rough to deal with.
Hey, who knew DLC was coming early? New duo boss leaked. It's Octopus Deathbird, guys.
I cannot wait.
And there it is, the money here from Kata now. Cashing in real quick. Maybe going for the 30 Arcane. Is he still hovering over the Grace? Could be a thing here.
He does have Bloodhound's Fang, so it's actually not super awful for him.
He is stat dumping in Arcane here. Not fully 30 Arcane, sadly. Leveled a little bit of Faith as well. Yeah, I think for the Scythe maybe. I don't know. He did level some Faith though.
Yeah, I saw that too. I don't know if he picked up any incantation that I missed at the same time. Because he does once again have Bloodhound's Fang, which I'm assuming he's going to be using. Literally one of the best weapons in the game, used in like the any percent speed run. We've previously seen a match decided essentially single-handedly by that pickup in one of the Monkey Baller games, where Eggy picked up that weapon and just blasted through every boss in the game.
Pup right here, by the way, claiming the Lightning Ram Ash of War square for Team Cattery now, kind of activating that column 1 and blocking that row 3. So this is already very much a blow-for-blow type of match, which I'm really excited for.
Yeah, and it looks like, and this is going to be an interesting dynamic, Pup now heading towards the Shabriri grapes. The question is, will Tom finish up that square or try to hold it similarly? And it seems like he might be holding it similarly to what Team Cattery was doing yesterday. Maybe sitting on that last grape and not picking it up yet. So he's currently actually making Pup waste her time unless, and we had exactly the same thing happen yesterday, they are too comfortable on that square and Cattery is able to actually squeeze it out. And then suddenly they have like all the threats in the world. They have the diagonals. They have both diagonals technically available to them.
Well, I mean, we see here, by the way, they are kind of pushing a little bit that column 1 as Kata does mark that 30 arcane square. So now currently 3 squares in column 1 for only leaving the Crucible Knights and Crucible Misbegotten duo. I feel like not knowing that Zoodle already has pretty much, or is going to have a +9 Dragon Halberd online, so those fights are not going to be that big of a deal. But Kata here currently in Consecrated Snowfield, I'm not exactly sure. Is he going for
I think he's going for Invaders. Invaders, probably.
Invaders, that would make sense. Because the rune level 60 is there. Maybe like a weird Moog Rush would kind of play in as he has a Bloodhound's Fang.
Right.
With upgrading and everything. I don't know. That seemed like a very, Hail Mary shot call, but it also would have maybe worked out in the long run too.
Oh, I didn't even see that square because we haven't really talked about that too much. We focused so much on the early game. Pup is currently checking the remembrance weapons because there is a remembrance boss with remembrance weapon only square. And I would say that's probably something that ideally Kata would be able to do. He's obviously already invested so many of his stats now into Arcane that would be difficult to do. If Pup had to do that, she doesn't have Godrick available anymore. So actually he would have to fight a later game boss like Radahn or something along the lines.
And this Sanjuan Noble Invader is just not having it. He's not falling for the trick anymore. He's seen it too many times.
Bloodblading now.
Catalyst being bloodbladed, and there it is now. Finally gets aggressive, falls off the side of the cliff. There is one Invader now for Kata. And he does go to Mogwin, so maybe he's grabbing the money that is laying around in the area from all the trees where the forgs are, just hanging out.
Yeah, and then probably also going for those triple white masks, right? That's been kind of like the meta that people have been doing, going to that blood lake and then just cheesing all of them off the cliff, getting 4 invaders essentially at once.
Yeah, Tom here working on that. I believe his second grape now, by the way, fighting Edgar, the invader, which also counts as an NPC invader as well, I believe. So that would be really a nice little 2-for-1 deal as Zoodle is making his way to Radahn? Or to a Deathbird? I don't know. Where is it going?
Yeah, that is kind of interesting because I don't think that's... Usually people just do the Leonia Deathbird birds. I don't know why you would be going for this one instead.
Misbegotten Duo. Crystal
right.
Duo. He's going to be going for that corner square to block column 1.
That makes sense. Column 1 is looking pretty scary.
Yep.
And Kata won't be able to actually work on that right now. I personally always... dislike having to go for the duo this way instead of being comfortable and getting the Radahn Grace first, killing him and then just returning because you have to ride through this entire section of the bridge. And then obviously in this case he's kind of forced to do so because it's scary and there's no real reasons to do Radahn because he doesn't have a remembrance weapon or anything like that. So that's just going to be his fastest play, but it can be pretty uncomfortable. Especially, thankfully his vigor's looking okay, but those flamethrower dudes before that Grace are especially awful in my opinion.
Yep, there's the grape square mark, by the way, from Tom here, getting
nice.
the center square on the board for his team. That's huge. That's huge. And we see Kata here going for that white mask invader cheese, and hopefully blocks, as we learned when watching Josh, that you have to block because
true.
The white mask can jump and still tag you mid-fall, and it does deal a lot of damage. Yeah, it just jumps right on your head. Yeah, exactly. Just jumps right on your head and everything. And it looks like Tom might be doing the same play here, going for that invader here and consecrate snowfields.
Now, he technically has that one invader advantage base of Edgar, like we said, but he probably has to make it into the teleporter anyway to finish off the square. So Kata definitely has the advantage here and is going to win that square. I do like that NPT eventually just decided to fully finish those Hayeta grapes because it was getting kind of scary. I think Pub was making some progress towards that and probably has to pivot now to do something else. She was checking those Remembrance, well, her only Remembrance. And I think it had the Maliketh's Black Blade and the Godslayer's Greatsword. Both not super good. They do need quite a bit of stats and not easy stats like strength that you can kind of like shortcut by using only 2/3 of it. The Godslayer's Greatsword needs like an insane amount of dex. I think it's like 28 or something, while also needing like 20 Faith. It can be really hard to get online. So I don't know if that's something she's planning on doing eventually. Katsa essentially will not be able to do it because he's already in too deep with this Arcane play.
Yeah, it looks like that Tom is setting himself up to get sniped, though, as he is also now in Mogwin Palace with 2 invaders. But I believe this is Kata's 4th invader that is going to be showing up here. And there it is, 4 NPC invaders now on the board for Team Cattery, going to be grabbing that corner square. So now Tom should realize, okay, I could just like maybe get the money and then get out. So it's not the worst case scenario. I make a little bit of cash.
And that's exactly what it's been, by the way. The flamethrower, guys. Zoodle dying right there. I don't know what the last grace he picked up was. Hopefully at least at the Great Bridge and not all the way back in Aeonia. Okay, thankfully he has this grace going for him. But those guys are incredibly annoying. The hitbox of that flame comes out early. They just keep blasting you. And suddenly you lose so much time on that one square. That's not even that easy to do. I mean, his weapon is strong enough to be able to do the duo fight relatively quick. But wow. And it does look like Kata is at least going to be grabbing the... oh, wait. He might actually go for the smoke play. Because... okay, probably not with this HP. He's probably just going to get the Lord's Rune inside of the cave. But the Rune level 60 play is suddenly becoming a little bit more viable because he's already been stat dumping a lot into Arcane. He might just want those runes to level up his weapon. 60 might still be too far away. You need like 450,000 or something from a new game to actually reach that level. But he hasn't actually been able to reach the stat requirements for his Bloodhound's Fang yet. So that's probably what he's going to be working on next. That being said, I think Pup is now picked up the Sacred Blade Ash of War, and is going to be able to potentially take away the advantage that Zoodle had on that square because he got stuck so much now on this Crucible Knight fight.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I honestly think the Moog play wouldn't even be that bad because, yeah, she's going for Deathbirds here, but also these Deathbirds do drop talismans, which would make her work towards that row 4. This could be something that they could really, really push is that level 60, 10 talisman squares that really puts them into the position of Margot's and Moog's Shackles only, which you need capital access for, and no team is currently prepared for capital access. So if they're really putting, that whole line into their playbook here, this would be really, really solid because... that's a huge threat.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't have hated if Kata just went to the midpoint grace there at the end and actually at least basically picked that up for him to be able to do that. He hasn't killed a single Remembrance boss yet or a Great Rune boss from what I can tell, but he could do something like a Quake Godrick or Redan. He is going to be so strong soon once his Bloodhound's Fang is online. Into potentially a threat like this could be a really cool play, especially if they can get the 10 talisman square early, because then they would have an advantage on both the Rune level 60 and the capital access.
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and move over to Team Cattery here real quick. Move them over to the big screen. As Pup is going to be doing her second Deathbird here, going for that Sacred Blade on the club, which I believe is the best option as it does have strike damage. So for Tibia Mariners, having the strike effect on Sacred Blade is way better than having it on a sword. To my understanding, that actually makes a difference.
Yeah, that's not bad at all, actually. It's like 600 damage with the charge tattoo. I don't know how highly leveled up this weapon is. I don't believe too much. Gets the stagger here. Is probably going to be able to take down the bird. 2 charge tattoos. Okay, not quite enough time for that. Needs to cancel out of it. Into riposte. Still kills him 2,900 damage. That's pretty massive. And Zoodle was working on that square at one point when the octopus incident happened. So, Pup might be able to take it away here and solidifying their lead even more now. This would be their square 8 if she can take down the Death Right bird.
Yeah, well, I mean, luckily in this case, I guess Zoodle didn't put too much time into it and currently fighting Crucible Misbegotten Duo. And And I still don't believe he actually +9'd his Dragon Halberd, which is still like, just why? Just take the time. It only takes a minute, if not two. Is it because he doesn't have the money for it? I'm not too sure, but it's definitely not +9 at the very least. So
Yeah, I
maybe
doubt the
after
Crucible
Square.
Knight. Yeah, exactly. Crucible Knight does have some resistances, but this is definitely looking more like a +4 damage type deal. I still haven't really seen him in Lake of Rot, which is where Kata just went to be able to bridge that gap between those early game Somber Stones and those late game ones from the Halic tree.
Nice little Celia Town skip here coming from Tom. Almost slid off there, but luckily saved that with a double jump. And yeah, this is what I'm a little confused by it, because like they made the right call with Zoodle being like, okay, I have a Dragon Halberd, let me just get this online ASAP, and then deciding not to, because that would have been the perfect call, is really having that +9. If he had that +9, he wouldn't have had that problem with the Octopus and the Deathbird. If he had a +9, he would be already done with his fight. You know, it's all kind of like biting him in the butt now that he didn't actually commit to that whole upgrade phase.
Yeah, honestly, I would really like to see Cattery work on those talismans here. It requires quite a bit of foresight that they technically have this possible row 4 play, and they are in a lead there. Obviously, that being said, it's not like killing Moog. Despite a strong weapon, it's going to be absolutely free, especially with a health pool as low as Kata has. And it's probably going to stay low for pretty much the rest of the match, as he's already put in 30 levels into Arcane and now even more levels into being able to wield the weapon. Pup is fighting the Death Rightbird, easily the scariest one. Not necessarily because the attacks are harder to dodge, but because sometimes you literally get true comboed by these guys. And when they go for that explosion attack, you can get stuck on those frost flames and then just kind of stagger into a true combo and just die. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Oh, and yeah, here it is, the explosion. You have to run south, and she does not run south. Probably gets tagged here by the Trail of Fire. Gets hit by the explosion. Has got to be really, really careful here. Zool marking that Crucible Night Misbegotten Duo square, though. That is a huge block here for Team Zoom. And hopefully they start progressing maybe sorceries, if not, going for tibias. If anything, honestly, for Zoodle, he should be going for Watchdogs. Just finish that. You already have one. Just go ahead and finish that square. Get that on the board.
He has the crystal darts too, so he literally just has to go there, throw 5, and that's basically the fight.
And there it is for Pup. That is for Death Rightbird and 2 Deathbirds. Gets a nice charge dart 2 on the head. That's a square now for Team Cattery, currently in the lead 2 squares.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised to see her go and do Tibia Mariners now. I mean, yeah, the strike weapon isn't going to be putting as much work in there, but the Sacred Blade in general and just that holy damage should be able to get some work done on those. She does have some map progression here throughout Liurnia, being in the center here. Going to Gatefront Grace now, though. Not really too many Tibia Marinas around.
Yeah, it looks like
she hasn't actually proceeded there yet.
No, I mean, Catalyst is already working on Tibia Mariners, so maybe she's going to start working on Market and Moog Shackle. Going to be going for patches potentially here and getting that Market Shackle already into selling with the sorceries. Really pushing that column 5.
A commercial break in progress right now for me on Catalyst stream. I wish I had my Prime sub available so I could subscribe to the channel right here so I wouldn't miss any of the action. That would be amazing. But that being said, looks like Cattery is going to be working on the Tibia Marina Square. And Pup might be headed towards sorceries. Yeah, going towards Selen.
Zoodle dying to try and skip down to the double Watchdog fight and doesn't actually reach the Stake of America that is right next to the tree and has to ride all the way back from Ionia.
Didn't get a single grace.
Oh boy.
That must hurt, especially after that flamethrower incident. Hopefully he can get back there in time to get the square. Thankfully, which he doesn't know yet, no one else is currently working on it. Decides to potentially pivot off of it though, unless he wants to reach it through the... Or maybe he just goes this way. Yeah, he just goes through the Spirit Springs and then to the tree. That's probably faster at this point.
Yeah, no, I definitely would agree. That's definitely faster for sure. If you have that third Church of America Grace, it's definitely way faster going up the Spirit Springs than going all the way around from the swamp. Unless someone finds a new skip. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Please find a new skip. Tom here now, currently, I believe in the Frenzy area, the Frenzy Village near Vike. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, there's a talisman there, so something that I can think of on the top of my head.
Sacred Flask
I think
plus
it's the
7.
Shabriri's Vow. And that one too, true. That's that tag that people have been doing, getting
Yeah.
the tier right there and then dropping down into the stake when you can then reach the Bellum Church from there.
Yeah. But the only problem is that they're not really honestly paying attention to that column 5. Because that column 5 is really going to start sneaking up on them really quickly here as, Team Cattery is really just working on that and only that. They're not looking at Watchdogs. They're not looking at Sacred Flask plus 7. They're not looking at Crucible Knights or anything. They're just eyeballing that. They're one of their last bingo lines. Row 2 and column 5 are the only other options here.
Yeah, and honestly, Cattery is looking really comfortable here because they do have those advantages on both the row and the line. If Kata really wanted to at one point, he could actually go for that Moog play, get rune level 60, make capital progress towards that Moog's Shackle, which would unlock row 4 and column 5 at the same time. He's about to block of the Tibia Mariner square here while Pup is going on those sorceries. So they can do basically whatever they want. They can commit for that play or kind of make the other team really uncomfortable into forcing them to block those squares, which is almost going to be impossible for them.
Yeah, it looks like that Puppery is making her way over to the Academy scroll here, which is going to be on the top of the ruins. So she's definitely going to be focusing on that 12 sorceries, which I believe is the right play as well. And Zoodle right now in the double Watchdogs Catacomb, going to try and not get imped on the way back. There it is, 7 Sacred Flasks for Tom. So he's able to mark that square 7 to 8. But I wonder if he's going to respond to any of the column 5 threats.
Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic because what I just said, as soon as they show their priority there, when Pup is marking the 12 sorceries and Kata is going to be marking the Tibia Mariners eventually. He is actually going for explosive physical now. This is something he likes doing a lot, just basically just holding these squares and working on something else instead in the meantime. And I kind of like that idea because it's going to set up this dynamic where the other team, and it looks like Zoodle is eventually getting these watchdogs on the board here, using those crystal darts to have them fight each other, just has to actually make them aware of each other. And you kind of want them to fight each other so you don't have to work too much through the health bars. But it sets up this dynamic where Team Zoom, they don't really want to do that, right? They don't want to block them because it's going to require such a high time investment. So maybe they would be like, okay, let's just have them work towards those squares. We try to get a win from all of the other squares, but Team Cattery is probably going to be like, well, we're going to take those away right now. So you either have to contest us or you just don't have enough squares left to even get to win. So we are just going to hold that advantage for rune level 60 and Moog's Shackle, and you can't even get enough squares on the board to be able to win off of those.
Yep, 12 sorceries on the board for Puppery here. And then also Zoodle marking Watchdog, still 9 to 8 now for Team Cattery, 1 square in the lead. But they do see more and more that Tibia Mariners is kind of open there with the Margin and Moog Shackle. But you gotta keep in mind that no one has capital access still. So yeah, maybe they are creating a threat, but they're also realizing, okay, well, if we commit now, I mean, if anyone should commit, it should be Tom. Because Tom already has Godrick. Zoodle doesn't have any remembrances whatsoever. Tom should go for Radon in this case. And that way, he has some capital access. And what seems to be Zoodle now focusing on the rest beyond that. Going for Garunk here. Maybe going to be going for 10 different talismans. I'm not too sure. Rune level 60. Those could be all options that Zoodle could really focus on. I'm going to go ahead and bring this up to the 4-player screen real quick, by the way.
This is about to get really interesting, by the way. Not only does Zulu currently have a small lead on Gorank, but NPT is able to get Maliketh's Blackblade online. He found that in the Remembrance. He has the Two Fingers heirloom from picking up the grape, and he can actually level up the Faith. If he kills Radon with that, he gets a square, gets closer towards capital access, and Zoodle is going to be able to get another square if he gets that Gorank kill first. Thus end up dying, though Gorank is definitely super tanky and can be really aggressive, so now they're actually going to be racing, and Bloodhound's Fang, I would definitely give the edge on this fight.
Especially because Bloodhound's Fang is a plus 10 compared to Zoodle's still plus 4 Dragon Halberd, I believe. Which is, I still don't understand personally, but maybe he just thinks going to Ult Altus for the 5 and 6 and going to Lake of Rod for the 7 and 8 is just not worth his time right now. And as we're seeing, it's really backfiring on him, though, as he has to do way more damage than Catalyst does on this fight.
Yeah, Kata being able to get those huge chunks of damage with the L2 and bleed perks, which is amazing in an HP pool this tanky. He's gonna be huge advantage here. It has slightly less health, but it shouldn't matter. Like at the end of the day, they're both relatively low on health, and which is gonna be super unfortunate if Zoodle was able to get that square while NPT is getting an incant only Redan kill and suddenly some more capital access. In fact, he would have actually had capital access because he's already killed Godrick. That would have actually changed quite a lot of things. It looks like NPT might want to level up the weapon a little bit first. I don't know why he just pivoted off of this Radan play.
I don't think he has a Grace activated, so he's not actually able to do the Radon fight.
Right.
Until he has a Grace
right.
active in Altus, so he's probably going straight for the Tree of Sentinel Grace here, and then going right back. That'd be my guess, anyways. And yeah,
Kata's so close now.
Yep, there it is. There it is. Let me go ahead and move over to the Team Red board here real quick. There it is.
Super important square to get. You could see from Zoodle's reaction, it's not something you wanted to see. Super unfortunate for Zoodle. I don't think even if he didn't die, I mean, actually, would have probably been a little bit closer. But just the fact that you can get 2 bleed procs compared to only a single frost proc, probably really reliably, was going to mean that he was going to win either way. It looks like Pup is now working on talismans. Just got that hammer talisman. Has already made really good progress towards that square. I don't think they want to be going into the capital. They want to finish this off with just the squares they have. Kata has that huge Tibia Mariner square advantage. If they get talismans, that's 11. Mariners, that's 12. And all he needs to do then is finish off the boss with the explosive physic, which he's already set up. He's actually doing it right now. He's literally at Bofa, about to drink the flask, getting the square.
Yeah, and this is Zoodle again shooting himself in the foot, sadly, making his way over to the physic flask, but boom, there it is, being marked by Catalyst. So Zoodle should see that and pivot off immediately as...
Kata is about to get like 3 squares in 2 minutes with like holding the Tibia Mariners, the physic flask, and getting...
there's 10 talismans already from Puppery. They only need Tibia Mariners now at this point, so Kata should just finish his square and be done with it.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why he's down here. Maybe he's close to rune level 60, and I kind of missed it. He's about to just pick up some runes.
That could be it.
Did put in those 30 arcane levels, so maybe he saw that that's all he needs to do. He decides not to.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Maybe he thought it was like a bigger gold rune that was just laying there or something.
Maybe he thought it was a mariner riding around the Blood Lake somewhere that no one knew about. It looks like he's just going to the Altus Mariner now instead.
I mean, there is the consecrated Snowfield Mariner as well. That's just lingering about right before the duping mausoleum. You kind of jump.
Yeah, that one is really
them.
fast. It's just like slightly tankier. I think it's
very tanky. Yeah, it is very, very tanky, but it's still kind of funny. It's just sitting there on its own.
Wait, now I'm confused. There is no Mariner in Mogwin, right? Because I know there's these like Volnir-looking dudes coming out of the ground that the Mariners normally summon. There's not like a hidden secret Mariner there, right?
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah, that would be news to me.
I think he was just looking for money. But yeah, it looks like that Zoodle's going to be focusing on Crucible Knights now, as he already has one completed. Going to try and get that second Crucible Knight through this Everjail, as Catalyst is going to be working on his last Tibia Mariner. And no one really contesting it on Team Zoom, which I'm still surprised by. They generally had time to snipe that square, and no one went for it.
Yeah, and it's looking to be GG here, unless Kata dies to this Tibia Mariner. That's going to be their square 13, yielding them the win. Pup, at the meantime, work on Crucible Knights, which is not even going to be necessary. They obviously don't know the exact dynamic of the match right now. But if Kata gets this kill, they're going to be getting their second win, tying their overall score with Team Zoom, setting us up for a super interesting sort of matchup next week to see who's actually going to be in the top 3 if Kata gets this kill, which he's probably about to do. As I say, that gets knocked off. Typical commentator's curse coming in. Thankfully, he has the flask available.
Yep. One more Ash of War should do it. However, it does get tagged by some of the henchmen of Tibia, not really having any of it, attacking their lord. And there he is. He falls.
GG's.
He fades. He marks the square. GG's a Team Cattery. Marking the 13th square. There it is. There it is.
Yeah, well done. Honestly, I know this is something that Kata has been concerned about. And I think he has definitely shown some pretty good control there on these like holding squares stuff. Like him, that's actually a huge play. Like him picking up that tree avatar in the middle of Tibia Mariners to be able to quickly grab that square, killing a Beastman of Ramazula with the explosive physics just before Zoodle. He was literally able to mark like 3 squares there in 3 minutes or something. He had done so much preparation. He got the what was it? The Tibia Mariners, the explosive physical, and the Gorang square in like a matter of 5 minutes.
Yeah. No, that was definitely very, very impressive end game here from Team Cattery. I definitely agree. I'm going to go ahead and check to see if the players are ready to be post-interviewed. Give me just a moment here. Definitely very surprised that... Oh. But definitely very surprised, to be honest, that like no one from Team Zoom really... I don't know. Like there was no consideration for column 5 at all. Like I am generally confused.
I guess it's just because you see that Moog square on a board like this, and you're like, yeah, I don't really want to go into the capital. There's literally no reason to do so. Probably thinking they're not going to be going for it. I mean, they ended up not going for it anyway.
Right.
But yeah, I think we're going to have to ask Zoodle about the weapon upgrade choices.
Yep. Let's go ahead. We'll move into the post game screen here. What's up, guys? We're back on cam. Hello. And we're going to bring in all the players now. Give me just a moment here. And here we go. GG's Team Cattery for taking the Dubski on a 46-minute match.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. So let's get to a little bit of analysis here.
GG, guys.
Early game and game plan, Team Cattery. What was the, when you saw the board, kind of walk us through everything that went through your head, team communication, etc.
Yeah, so we saw the potential for the Godrick play, but it was similar to what we had yesterday, where there's both like duping and Great Rune. So we thought that we could possibly challenge one of those squares there. Especially after losing Caves and Grottos, we were kind of thinking that hopefully we are going to get that block on row 1. So we prepped the Godrick's Great Rune, and then, when we saw that dupe happened, we knew that we made the right choice. And yeah, I decided to go for Scion because I wanted to get the Somberstone Bell Bearings. I think it's a really powerful square because it helps you set up a Somber weapon without wasting a lot of extra time. So that's why I went for Scion early on, even though it wasn't in like a great position. And then we essentially looked at the other rushable squares, and what stood out was Catacombs, right? So I was like, well, if they got Caves and Grottos from us, and Zoodle is not doing Godrick but gets Catacombs, I need to go Omen Killer. So that's why I went Omen Killer early on, and that was kind of how the early game played out.
Gotcha. All right. And for Team Zoom, what was your guys' thought process and everything from seeing the board and some of the plays that you guys made?
Yeah, so our idea was essentially we figured Kato was going to go for Graph to Scion and then eventually to Omen Killer because that seems like the fastest square afterward. So we're like, well, column 4 is probably just a bust, but we can try to get rows 1 and rows 3.
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of figured Godrick was going to be contested. Was going to try to get a diagonal play. Also, like a top left, bottom right, or like I guess Omen Killer blocked that. So it was kind of hard to create some pressure based on this board with the early game squares that we chose. I was going to do 12 sorceries. I was going to do Remembrance Boss with Remembrance Weapon only. Was going to try to get 30 Arcane, Ash of War, Lightning Ram, stuff like that, but they just beat us to it.
Gotcha. Okay, and when it came to like the late game, there were some interesting choices. One of them being, that going from column 1 to column 5 for Team Cattery. I'm assuming there never was an intention of fully committing to that column 5 with the Margaret and Moog shackle, but just mostly just creating that threat and then going for the other squares afterwards.
Well,
Yeah, go on, Bob.
well, we were kind of gonna go for it. Like, Kata was actually going towards Moog now, doing like the rune level 60 and then capital access combo. He didn't realize that we only needed one more point, basically. But yeah, if like it wasn't the points that we had, we probably would have tried to commit to that. But yeah, it just so worked out that we didn't have to, luckily, because it would have still been quite a long game then.
Yeah.
One
I
second,
I personally really like the idea of the column 1, but then my setup just with the 30 arcane dump took forever. I took some deaths as well, so it slowed me down even more. And I realized that we were just gonna be like way too late for that duo Crucible Knight synergy because it blocks that column and it's a very like obvious synergy there on the board. So I thought it would be contested, and indeed it was. So we had to pivot a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it came to upgrading, by the way, Zoodle, I was really wondering why you kind of held on to the Dragon Helmet only being like +4 or +5 for the whole game and never really wanted to, I guess, use a little bit of a time commitment to go for the full +9, as you did grab the Somber 9 from Halic Tree anyways.
Yeah, I mean, +5 is all right. There was not much time, I feel like. The thing is,
Yeah.
to that at this point, we were kind of already pressured by I think, I mean, there was column 1 and then essentially at some point column 5 as well. And at that point, we already were like, okay, it's now a 50-50. I go for Tibius and might lose it, or like we had to block,
Yeah.
At that point, we already, had not much time left to do much more, I guess.
Gotcha.
I mean, I planned on doing Deathbirds and Tibius actually really early on. I just stopped doing it because
the octopus
that
incident.
Yeah, fucking octopus. So eine Scheiße. You practice this fucking boss like fucking hours, and out of the sudden there's an octopus coming. That never happened before. 2,000 hours in this game. Anyway, I apologize. But anyway, so I went for the Deathbird and then maybe Tibia, and then out of the sudden the column 1 happened, and I was like, yeah, okay, now we have to block it, and then I was too late with column 5 blocks.
Yeah, I think it was almost going to be pretty interesting if you got that Gorang square towards the end there, because NPT had the 2 fingers heirloom Black Blade set up for the incantation kill, and suddenly it would have been really close. But yeah, definitely still a really fun match to watch. For a second, I thought Kata knew about like some secret tech Tibia Marina in Mogwin, because there's like these skeleton dudes, and I was like, wait, did I not know there's like a secret Tibia Marina there? But yeah, he pivoted.
Yeah, overall,
Yeah, it was
a great match too. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I was gonna get I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get, Moog for 1 Remembrance and Rune level 60, and we have capital access, and Pup is like, dude, we have 12 squares, just finish the freaking Mariner.
Makes sense.
And for the Grafted Scion play, did Team Cattery, were you guys expecting that to be challenged by chance, or were you guys thinking that they're gonna avoid it anyways?
I honestly, with how nice Caves, Grottos, and like Godrick were, I expected them to do Caves and Grottos, and then the other player to go for Godrick's Great Rune. The reason I went for Scion, which is quite a bit of a time sink early on, was, like I said, the Somberstone Bell Bearings. So yeah, I didn't think it was actually going to be contested.
Right.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you very much for playing, everyone. I really do appreciate it. GG's again to Team Cattery for taking the victory today. Best of luck to you guys next week, which would be the final round 5, before the top 3 matches. So I wish you both teams best of luck, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thank
you
you,
too.
GG,
Thank
guys.
Domo.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.